Welcome back to my channel. Kody Brown now stands at the center of a legal inferno, a storm so fierce that even Coyote Pass, the land he once called his legacy, might crumble beneath him. After years of buried secrets, financial manipulation, and silent betrayals, his wives, Christine, Janelle, Mary, and even Robin, now stand on opposite sides of a courtroom that feels more like a battlefield. The question before the judge is simple but deadly. Who truly owns Coyote Pass, and what explosive secrets will finally come out on the stand? The heavy courthouse doors groaned as they swung open, pulling every gaze, reporters, spectators, attorneys, toward the unfolding spectacle. Inside, the air was thick enough to choke on. Whispers curled through the room like smoke. Was this the day Kody Brown finally paid for years of hidden deceit? Would their private family chaos be exposed for the world to dissect? Even the judge, famous for his stone-cold composure, looked unsettled as he took his seat on the bench. Camera flashes burst in the hallway, their reflections flickering through the glass and lighting up the tense faces of Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin. None sat together. None spoke. None even dared to look at the others. Invisible walls of betrayal separated them more powerfully than distance ever could. Kody Brown, a man who once ruled every family gathering, now sat at the defendant's table, jaw locked, hands clenched, eyes flickering across his wives one by one, each look a plea, a warning, or maybe even a silent farewell. All rise for the Honorable Judge Harrison. The room shot to its feet. Heartbeats quickened. Breath stalled.
Bang!
The judge's gavel cracked through the tension like lightning. Court is now in session. The matter before us, Brown versus Brown, the Coyote Pass land dispute. A shiver ran through the gallery. This was real, and the stakes were lethal. Prosecution, you may begin. Christine Brown rose, her attorney beside her, her face pale but burning with resolve. She swallowed hard as her attorney stepped forward. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today for something far more serious than a property dispute. We are here because Christine Brown and her children have been systematically denied their rightful share of the Coyote Pass estate through deception, manipulation, and fraud. A stunned gasp tore through the gallery. Kody's lawyer shot up. Objection. Baseless. The judge raised a hand sharply. You'll get your turn, counselor.
Sit down.
The prosecution continued. We will show evidence that Mr. Brown falsified documents, hid assets, and made promises to each of his wives that he never intended to keep. Christine placed a stack of folders on the evidence table, her hands trembling. Inside them, years of secrets, each one sharper than a blade. This case, her attorney said, is not only about land. It is about trust, betrayal, and the destruction of a family. Reporters exploded into furious scribbling. And then, the line that froze Kody in place. But what Christine reveals next will leave even this court speechless. Kody's face cracked.
Panic.
Just for a moment. The bailiff delivered the documents to the judge. A suffocating silence fell. Mary glanced at Janelle, tears shimmering. Janelle's expression hardened into quiet resolve. Robin stared at her hands, fingers flexing anxiously. Kody's lawyer rose again. The defense will show that Mr. Brown is not a fraud. He is a man who tried to protect his family while they turned their backs on him. These so-called discrepancies are simple accounting errors. Judge Harrison didn't blink. We'll let the evidence decide. He turned to Christine. Ms. Brown, you may speak. Christine stood. Every eye locked on her. I never wanted this, she said, voice trembling. I trusted Kody for years. But when I asked who truly owned Coyote Pass, when I asked why the money kept disappearing, I was met with lies. My children deserved better. We all did. A hush swept through the courtroom. Then, the doors opened again. A tall, stern woman entered. Ms. Davis, the court-appointed forensic financial investigator. She carried a massive binder labeled Brown Family Financial Records. The judge nodded. You may give your preliminary findings. Ms. Davis flipped open the binder. Your Honor, I found several major discrepancies in property transfers and joint bank accounts. There are signatures that do not match Mr. Brown's legal documents, and large sums withdrawn with no explanation. Kody froze. In one instance, she continued, a transfer of $250,000 was moved from the Coyote Pass account into a personal account belonging to Mr. Brown, just weeks before he informed the family that no money remained for Mary or Janelle's shares. Shock rippled across the room. Kody's attorney scrambled in panic. Christine sat straighter. Mary whispered, "Oh my God," and Ms. Davis wasn't finished. "You will not believe what else is hidden in these records." Christine's attorney called Janelle Brown to the stand next. Janelle, voice steady but wounded, described late-night arguments, unanswered questions, and Kody's infamous phrase, "Trust me, it's taken care of." Except, nothing was taken care of. And the numbers never added up. The courtroom shrank around them as the truth spilled out under oath. Judge Harrison finally stood. "We will recess for lunch. And let me be clear. If anyone conceals evidence from this point forward, the consequences will be severe." As everyone rose to leave, Christine stared at the empty witness stand, the battlefield where her family was falling apart piece by piece. Kody looked away. The weight of everything unsaid hung heavy in the air, and the most dangerous witness of all still hadn't taken the stand. Robin Brown. What will she confess? Whose side will she take? And what secret is she hiding that could shatter everything? Stay with me. The next chapter is even more explosive. The lunch break ended with a tension so thick it clung to the walls of the courthouse like fog. Reporters clustered in tight circles across the hallway, whispering about the financial bombshells already revealed. Eyes were wide, hands shaking, microphones angled toward any Brown family member who dared walk past. When the courtroom doors finally reopened, the crowd surged back in. Some faces were flushed with excitement, others pale with dread. Even the Brown family, once bound together by a complicated web of loyalty, now sat scattered in isolated corners. No one spoke. No one dared. Each one seemed to be replaying old memories, late-night arguments, missing receipts, uneasy glances that suddenly made sense. Inside the courtroom, everything felt heavier. The air didn't just shift, it tightened. Judge Harrison re-entered with a solemn purpose. He tapped his gavel twice, sharp, authoritative, final. Order returned instantly. His gaze fell on Janelle Brown, still on the witness stand, her fingers intertwined, knuckles white. "Ms. Brown," he began, voice echoing through the room, "you've described feeling uneasy about the family finances. Please elaborate." Janelle swallowed hard. Her eyes drifted toward Kody, who sat rigid at the defense table, staring at nothing. She steadied herself. "Your Honor, there were late-night phone calls about the Coyote Pass Fund. Calls Kody wouldn't explain. Sometimes he'd disappear for hours, then come back and tell me vague stories about the money, stories that changed every time I asked." The room leaned in. "When I pressed for details," she continued, "he'd get angry. Or he'd smile. That smile he uses when he wants you to stop asking questions. And he'd say, 'Trust me, it's all handled.'" She shook her head softly. But nothing ever added up. So I started keeping my own notes. A low murmur rolled through the gallery. Then one night, I couldn't sleep. Her voice trembled. I went through our records line by line and found a $50,000 transfer I didn't recognize.
Gone. Just gone.
Kody said it was for land improvements, but the receipts, they were missing. All of them. Christine, seated close by, wiped her eyes with a trembling hand. Kody sat still, jaw clenched, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. And when I told Christine, Janelle said, that's when we started wondering what else he wasn't telling us. The tension climbed higher, buzzing like electricity. Christine's attorney rose with a stack of color-coded binders, red tabs, blue tabs, yellow tabs, an overwhelming mountain of evidence. "Your Honor," the attorney said, handing a thick manila envelope to the bailiff. "Inside are text messages and emails between Mr. Brown and multiple third parties about the Coyote Pass funds. We request these be admitted into evidence. Judge Harrison flipped through several pages. His eyes narrowed. Admitted, he declared. Proceed. Janelle took a shaky breath. There's one message I can't forget, she said. It was sent from Kody to a realtor. The date, only 2 days before he told us the land was tied up. She lifted her eyes to the judge. He wrote, I'll handle the paperwork. Don't mention this to the others yet. Gasps exploded across the courtroom. When I confronted him, she continued, her voice cracking, he told me I was overreacting. But the more questions I asked, the quicker he changed the subject. Suddenly it became about loyalty, about family unity, about how outsiders were trying to tear us apart. The judge leaned in, fingers steepled, expression unreadable. Before he could speak, the prosecution rose. Your Honor, Christine's attorney said, the prosecution calls its next witness, Mary Brown. The courtroom shifted again, a quiet, collective inhale. Mary stood slowly, as though the weight of years pressed down on her shoulders. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with something that looked like truth finally ready to claw its way out. She stepped toward the witness stand, passing Kody. For a moment, she looked at him, searching for the man she once trusted, the man who once promised her forever. But whatever she hoped to find wasn't there. The bailiff swore her in. Silence fell like a curtain. Ms. Brown, the attorney began carefully, were you aware of any irregularities in the family finances? And what Mary said next would tear open wounds Kody had been hiding for years. Mary Brown stepped forward slowly, her hands trembling as she adjusted the microphone. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The entire courtroom leaned in, waiting for a truth she had buried for years. I wanted to believe Kody, she whispered, her voice barely holding together. I wanted to believe he was being honest, but I always felt left out. A flicker of pain crossed her face. He would tell me things like, you don't need to worry about the land, Mary. I'm taking care of it for all of us. But the more I asked, the more he pushed me away. She took a long, shaky breath, the kind you take before ripping off a bandage. There was one night, she continued, eyes drifting toward the ceiling as if the memory hurt to look at directly. I overheard him on the phone. He was arguing with someone I don't know who, and he kept saying, don't let this get back to them. I can fix it. A ripple moved through the courtroom. When he saw me standing there, Mary said softly, he hung up immediately. Told me it was nothing. Just business. But I never believed him again after that. Christine's attorney approached with a folder thick enough to snap under pressure. Mrs. Brown, he said, do you recognize these transactions? Mary took the bank statements with trembling fingers. Her eyes widened. No, she breathed. No, I never authorized any of these. Christine and Janelle didn't either, I know they didn't. She held the pages closer, voice cracking. And the signatures, this isn't my handwriting. Gasps erupted from every corner of the courtroom. Judge Harrison snapped his head toward Kody. Mr. Brown, you will have your chance to respond. Until then, remain silent. Kody's jaw flexed. His fists clenched so tightly the knuckles blanched. But everything was about to get even worse. Because Robin, quiet, loyal, unwavering Robin, had been silent all morning. Now, the prosecution turned to her. Mrs. Brown, the attorney said gently, would you like to address the court? Every eye snapped to Robin. She stood slowly, like someone walking toward the edge of a cliff. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed with red, but her chin lifted with a final flicker of courage. She took her place at the stand, smoothing her skirt before she spoke. I don't know what everyone expects me to say, she began, her voice trembling with the weight of years. Kody always told me he was protecting us. He said the paperwork was complicated, that he'd make sure we were all taken care of. She looked down, then back at Christine and Janelle. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Her voice cracked. But I can't deny what's in front of me now. The numbers, the signatures, the missing money. I don't know what happened. I just wanted my family to stay together. The courtroom went still. The attorney stepped forward again. Mrs. Brown, did you ever witness Kody signing documents on behalf of anyone else? Robin hesitated, then nodded. Yes, she whispered. Once he told me Mary was too upset to handle paperwork after one of their fights. He said he would take care of it for her. I didn't ask questions. I thought he was helping. Mary stiffened like she'd been slapped. Her eyes glistened with betrayal. Even Judge Harrison looked shaken. What would you do, the attorney asked the jury, if the foundation of your family was built on secrets? Before anyone could answer, the prosecution called their final witness. Miss Davis, the court-appointed financial investigator. Miss Davis stepped forward with charts, timelines, and documents that looked like they'd been pulled from a crime drama. She laid everything out, color-coded, date-stamped, impossible to deny. Funds were diverted, she explained. Documents altered. Signatures forged. Key decisions made without the wives' knowledge. She paused before delivering the blow. In my professional opinion, there is overwhelming evidence of deliberate misconduct. The records suggest clear intent to deceive. Kody's attorney shot to his feet. Objection. The judge didn't even let him finish. Sit down, counselor. You will have your chance tomorrow. He turned to the room, voice ringing with finality. This court is adjourned until morning. All parties are forbidden from contacting each other outside of counsel. The gavel slammed. The Brown family rose in silence, each face a portrait of devastation. Reporters swarmed them, cameras flashing, voices shouting. Christine, do you think he lied? Janelle, did you expect this? Mary, do you trust him now? Robin remained behind, pressed against the wall, sobbing quietly as she watched the life she tried so hard to hold together collapsing in front of her. Kody sat alone at the defense table, staring at the mountain of evidence, a man who finally realized he was losing control of the narrative he held for over a decade. And tomorrow would be the day he faced the truth. Would he defend his name? Or would the secrets he buried finally destroy him? If you thought the courtroom had already reached its breaking point, brace yourself, because the next revelation could obliterate Kody Brown's defense entirely. The air grew heavier, almost suffocating, as the prosecution called their most explosive witness yet, the Brown family's former nanny, Rebecca Lyle. The moment her name was spoken, a ripple of whispers spread through the gallery. Everyone remembered the rumors, the diary she had kept, a secret ledger of daily observations from her years inside the Brown household, filled with intimate details no one was meant to see. Ms. Lyle approached the stand, clutching a worn, leather-bound notebook like it held the weight of the entire family's legacy. She looked around the room calmly, her gaze sweeping over every anxious face before resting on Judge Harrison. Ms. Lyle, the prosecution asked, voice steady but tense, can you explain the significance of this diary? She nodded slowly, her voice quiet but resolute. I kept daily notes as part of my job, she began. The children, household routines, the adults' behavior, everything. But over time, I noticed patterns, strange behaviors, late-night meetings between Kody and Robin, secretive phone calls, hushed conversations in the kitchen. Things that didn't make sense, things that worried me. She flipped the diary to a bookmarked page. Her fingers lingered over the words as she read aloud, her voice steady and deliberate. March 14th, last year. Heard Kody and Robin arguing behind closed doors. Kody said, if this gets out, it's over. You promised to keep it quiet. Later, Robin was in the hallway crying. What have we done? A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Robin's eyes fell to the floor, tears silently streaming, while Kody's jaw clenched as he averted his gaze from everyone around him. The attorney pressed on, his voice cutting through the tension. Ms. Lyle, did you ever witness Mr. Brown falsifying signatures or handling money in secret? She nodded, her expression unwavering. Yes. On more than one occasion, he handed me documents and asked me to witness him signing for other family members. He told me it was routine. Another time, he brought a briefcase full of cash, claiming it was a loan repayment, but there was no record anywhere. The judge interjected, voice sharp. Miss Lyle, did you report any of this? She shook her head, the weight of fear and loyalty evident in her eyes. No, Your Honor. I was afraid. Kody had a way of making you feel indebted to him. I didn't want to lose my job or put the children in the middle of something ugly. The prosecution didn't pause. They displayed scanned photocopies of the diary on courtroom screens, the words projected for all to see. Saw Kody alone with land documents late at night. He whispered, "They'll never find out." Next morning, Robin was gone before sunrise. Hours later, she returned with eyes red, refusing to speak. Janelle told Christine, "If the truth comes out, none of us are safe." The courtroom held its breath. Jurors exchanged uneasy glances. Even the most seasoned reporters scribbled furiously, capturing every detail. By the day's end, the prosecution rested. Judge Harrison's gavel hit with finality. "We will recess," he said. "Tomorrow, the defense will have its opportunity. Tampering with evidence or witnesses will not be tolerated." The Brown family exited silently. Christine embraced Janelle tightly, both shaken by the weight of what they had just heard. Mary followed, shoulders slumped, burdened by betrayal. Only Kody and Robin lingered, frozen, the enormity of the accusations pressing down on them. But the drama wasn't over. The next day promised a far more devastating revelation. The children themselves would take the stand, and what they revealed could finally tear the Brown family apart or bring the hidden truth into the light. Sunlight filtered through the courthouse windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Reporters and fans had arrived before the doors even opened, eager for the next chapter of this family saga. Inside, the Brown family looked fractured like never before. Christine and Janelle whispered anxiously. Mary sat rigidly, hands clasped tightly. Robin's eyes were puffy, her fingers clutching a tissue like a lifeline. Kody appeared defiant, but even he couldn't hide the tremor in his hands as they gripped the edge of the defense table. The court clerk announced the first witness, Madison Brown. The eldest daughter from Janelle's side stepped forward, her composure steady, but the weight of her family's legacy evident in every line of her face. She took the stand, her voice clear yet heavy with sadness. "Your Honor," she began, "my childhood was different. We were told we were one big family, no secrets. But as I grew older, I noticed things didn't add up. Money went missing. Land deals changed overnight. Arguments erupted almost every night." The attorney nodded. "Did you ever confront your father about these inconsistencies?" "Yes," Madison admitted, taking a deep breath. "I asked him directly. He either brushed me off or told me, 'You're too young to understand.' But I wasn't. I could see something was wrong." A ripple of emotion ran through the gallery. Christine's eyes shimmered with a mix of pride and heartbreak. Madison paused, the courtroom hanging on every word. "There was one night," she said quietly, "when I heard my mom and dad arguing about the Coyote Pass money. My mom was crying, saying she felt betrayed. My dad told her she was being paranoid, but later that night, I saw him shred documents. That's when I started keeping notes, dates, odd bank activity, everything I overheard. I knew one day, someone would need to tell the truth." And in that moment, every person in the courtroom understood. The children had seen everything, and the truth they carried might finally shatter the walls of lies the Brown family had built. The courtroom was electric, every heartbeat amplified by the weight of what was about to unfold. Madison's handwritten notes were entered into evidence, the judge scrutinizing them with a furrowed brow. "Very well," he said slowly. "This court accepts the notes as evidence of ongoing financial concerns within the Brown household." Murmurs rippled through the gallery, reporters furiously scribbling and typing, the tension rising like a storm cloud ready to break. Next, Logan Brown, the eldest of Kody's children, was called. He strode forward with purpose, his presence commanding even in the hushed courtroom. Every sibling, every mother watched him intently, their faces a mixture of hope and dread. Logan faced the judge, jaw tight, voice steady despite the obvious weight of his words. "I tried to be neutral," he began, eyes sweeping across the courtroom. "I love my dad. I really do. But I saw things that didn't make sense. He'd pull me aside and say, "Son, someday all this will be yours. But you have to trust me, even when it looks messy." I wanted to believe him, but when I saw him forge my mom's name on a check, I realized trust only goes so far. Kody's face reddened, jaw tight, hands gripping the table. The defense attorney objected immediately, but Judge Harrison waved him down. "Mr. Brown, your son's observations are relevant. The truth must be heard." Logan continued, voice unwavering. I confronted him after that. He got angry, said I was trying to ruin the family. I moved out soon after. I couldn't live in a house built on lies. A stunned silence fell over the room, the air thick with the weight of confession. The prosecution called the next witness, Kody Brown, Christine's outspoken daughter. She approached the stand, eyes blazing with a mixture of pain, anger, and conviction. "I've always spoken my mind," she began, "even when it got me in trouble. I love my dad, but I can't pretend he didn't hurt us. I saw him sign papers with other people's names, move money without telling Mom, and share secrets with Robin that none of us knew. We were supposed to be equals, but we weren't. Not even close." She paused, fighting back tears. Once I found Robin in the kitchen crying. She told me, "Sometimes love means covering for someone, even when it hurts." I never forgot that. The judge's gaze was sharp. "Gwendolyn, do you believe your father acted out of love or self-interest?" "Both," she admitted, voice trembling. "He wanted to protect the family, yes, but he wanted control more. He was scared of losing everything, so he tried to hold on to it by any means necessary, even if it meant hurting us." The courtroom fell silent, the weight of her words pressing into every corner of the room. Then came the youngest voice, Kody Brown, Christine's youngest daughter, who entered holding her mother's hand. The judge allowed her to sit beside Christine, understanding the fragility of her age. Kody looked around, shyly, before speaking with a small, quivering voice. "I don't know about money or land. I just know my family fights all the time. I wish we could go back to when we all had breakfast together and no one was mad." Her simple words struck deeper than any legal argument, leaving the courtroom momentarily breathless. The judge smiled gently. "Thank you, truly. Sometimes the truth is simplest when it comes from the mouths of children." The children had spoken, shattering the courtroom's defenses. Now it was Kody's turn. The judge recessed briefly, allowing a charged, anxious hush to settle over the room. Outside, the media buzzed with the headlines, "Brown children tell all, family secrets on full display." When the court resumed, closing statements began. The prosecution's voice cut through the tension, unwavering. "Your Honor, this case is about trust shattered and promises broken. The evidence is clear: forged signatures, hidden bank accounts, secret transfers. Kody Brown's actions have violated not only the law but the very foundation of this family. We urge the court to rule in favor of transparency, restitution, and a fair division of assets." Christine squeezed Janelle's hand, eyes brimming with both hope and fear. The defense stood, Kody's attorney speaking with measured intensity. "Your Honor, my client made mistakes, but his intentions were always to protect the family from outside threats and internal discord. The alleged forgeries and missing money were never about greed, but about maintaining stability for multiple households. We ask this court to consider not only the letter of the law but the spirit of family." Murmurs filled the room, some nodding in sympathy, others shaking their heads. Judge Harrison turned to the Browns for final statements. Christine's voice trembled, but remained clear. "All we ever wanted was honesty. We gave everything for this family, for Kody. But honesty was the price we paid over and over. I just want my children to know the truth." Janelle added, "I don't want vengeance. I want freedom from lies and pain." Mary whispered softly, "I want healing, even if it means letting go." Robin's voice broke. "I'm sorry. I wish I'd asked more questions." Finally, Kody faced his family. "I tried to protect everyone. I lost sight of what mattered. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I hope somehow we can be a family again." The judge nodded and withdrew to chambers. The wait was excruciating, 20 minutes that felt like an eternity. Every Brown sat side by side, yet worlds apart, bracing for a future none of them truly wanted. The gavels fell again. Silence. And then Judge Harrison's voice resonated through the courthouse. This case is not merely a dispute over property. It is a public reckoning of trust, love, and betrayal within a family. After reviewing the evidence, witness testimony, and admissions of the parties, it is the court's finding that Mr. Kody Brown knowingly altered legal documents and misappropriated funds intended for the collective benefit of his family. However, due to years of commingled finances, the court acknowledges the difficulty in assigning full responsibility for every transaction. A collective gasp erupted through the gallery. The Brown family's world had shifted forever. Kody shut his eyes tightly, jaw clenched, the weight of the courtroom's verdict pressing down like a physical force. The judge's voice cut through the tension, deliberate and solemn. Therefore, the court orders the following. The property known as Coyote Pass shall be divided equally among Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin. An independent trustee will oversee the process to ensure fairness. Mr. Brown is ordered to pay restitution to the joint family account as determined by the independent auditor. Furthermore, the court strongly recommends counseling for all parties, particularly the children affected by these events. While Mr. Brown is found civilly liable for damages, no criminal charges will be filed at this time due to the complexities and shared responsibilities in family finances. A stunned silence swept through the room, broken only by the sound of quiet sobs. Christine collapsed into Janelle's arms, tears streaming down her face. Mary wept silently, head bowed, shoulders shaking. Robin buried her face in her hands, the weight of guilt and shame pressing down with every breath. Kody slumped in his seat, a storm of anger, regret, and exhaustion etched into every line of his face. The verdict had spoken, and there was no hiding from it. But this was not the end. The real reckoning, the slow unraveling and the rebuilding, was only beginning. As the courtroom emptied, the Browns lingered, caught between relief, grief, and disbelief. Reporters crowded the hallways, cameras flashing, desperate for a glimpse of the family fractured by truth. Christine, standing with her children, whispered through tears, "We'll be okay. Now, we can finally be honest. No more secrets." Janelle wrapped her arms around her, voice trembling but resolute. "We survived worse. We'll survive this too." Mary slipped away quietly, but not before offering Robin a small, tentative smile, an olive branch in a war that had no real winners. Robin, however, lingered, searching the crowd for Kody. When their eyes met, there was nothing left to say, only an unspoken wish that maybe, someday, forgiveness could come. Kody remained alone, the weight of the verdict pressing on him like an immovable stone. For the first time, the patriarch had no one to lead, only the uncertain horizon of his own choices, and a future filled with questions he could not answer. The world outside erupted. Social media exploded with trending hashtags, news outlets dissected every moment, and fans debated every tear, hug, and word exchanged in the courtroom. Yet for the Browns, the story had only just begun. Inside the walls of Coyote Pass, each family member faced the daunting task of rebuilding a life fractured by secrets. Christine woke the next morning to sunlight barely brushing her tear-stained pillow, the absence of certainty heavy in the air. She made breakfast in silence, her children's eyes still red from the night before, but beneath their pain, there was an unfamiliar feeling, a fragile sense of release. Janelle called early, her voice steady but thin. "We did it, Chris. We told the truth. I don't know what comes next, but at least it's real." Christine smiled through her tears, thinking about who they were, not just as wives, but as individuals reclaiming their lives. Meanwhile, Mary wandered her quiet home, running fingers across old family photos, finally allowing herself the space to grieve, reflect, and heal. Robin sat in her living room, clutching a cold mug of tea, the guilt pressing on her chest like a tangible weight. She whispered promises to herself and to her children, vowing to rebuild trust slowly, cautiously. Kody, isolated in his office, stared at the verdict, the words blurring through tears. His control had dissolved, his power had vanished. All that remained was reckoning, reflection, and the long path toward redemption. Robin, however, lingered, searching the crowd for Kody. When their eyes met, there was nothing left to say, only an unspoken wish that maybe, someday, forgiveness could come. Kody remained alone, the weight of the verdict pressing on him like an immovable stone. For the first time, the patriarch had no one to lead, only the uncertain horizon of his own choices, and a future filled with questions he could not answer. The world outside erupted. Social media exploded with trending hashtags, news outlets dissected every moment, and fans debated every tear, hug, and word exchanged in the courtroom. Yet for the Browns, the story had only just begun. Inside the walls of Coyote Pass, each family member faced the daunting task of rebuilding a life fractured by secrets. Christine woke the next morning to sunlight barely brushing her tear-stained pillow, the absence of certainty heavy in the air. She made breakfast in silence, her children's eyes still red from the night before, but beneath their pain, there was an unfamiliar feeling, a fragile sense of release. Janelle called early, her voice steady but thin. "We did it, Chris. We told the truth. I don't know what comes next, but at least it's real." Christine smiled through her tears, thinking about who they were, not just as wives, but as individuals reclaiming their lives. Meanwhile, Mary wandered her quiet home, running fingers across old family photos, finally allowing herself the space to grieve, reflect, and heal. Robin sat in her living room, clutching a cold mug of tea, the guilt pressing on her chest like a tangible weight. She whispered promises to herself and to her children, vowing to rebuild trust slowly, cautiously. Kody, isolated in his office, stared at the verdict, the words blurring through tears. His control had dissolved, his power had vanished. All that remained was reckoning, reflection, and the long path toward redemption. The days blurred. Media vans, helicopters, and paparazzi buzzed outside Coyote Pass, yet inside, Evelyn Carr, the court-appointed trustee, began the painstaking work of dividing the land fairly. Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin met in tense silence, maps spread before them. Christine spoke first, trembling yet determined. "I want my kids to feel secure. I want a place to build a home, not just survive." Janelle nodded. "I want to stay close to Christine. Our kids are cousins and best friends. We need each other." Mary added quietly, "I need a fresh start, something that's mine." Robin whispered, "I want to be fair, but I want my children to feel safe." Evelyn nodded solemnly. "I can divide the land fairly, but I cannot heal the past. That is up to you." Gradually, small moments of hope returned. Janelle took her children hiking on Coyote Pass, pointing out wildflowers and teaching resilience. Christine planted a garden. Mary painted, pouring her grief onto the canvas, and slowly reached out to the world, sharing her journey of healing online. Robin began therapy, learning to navigate the fractured trust with her children. Kody reluctantly attended court-mandated group sessions, confronting the emptiness of his choices. Through pain, honesty began to take root. Weeks passed. Land was surveyed, plots staked, paperwork filed. Christine and Truly walked their new lot, imagining a life filled with laughter instead of courtroom battles. Janelle worked with her grown children to clear land and build cabins, while Mary explored her independence and creativity. Robin quietly rebuilt her relationship with her children, and Kody walked alone, reflecting on lost control and the consequences of his actions. Finally, the Browns gathered for a reunion on Christine's plot of land. No cameras, no reporters, only the family, a tent, and a long table of food. Awkward smiles and tentative greetings slowly gave way to laughter, shared memories, and honest words. Christine spoke, voice gentle but firm. "I called you all here not to rehash the past, but to honor it. We lost each other, but we also found ourselves. What do we want for the future? Janelle added, we can't undo the pain, but we can choose forgiveness. Slowly, imperfectly, but we can try for ourselves and our kids. Mary, Robin, and even Kody contributed, offering apologies, gratitude, and acknowledgement. The day ended with a circle, everyone sharing what they were grateful for and writing regrets on slips of paper to burn in a small fire. One by one, guilt, shame, anger, and secrets rose in flames, smoke curling toward the stars. There were no perfect resolutions, only small, fragile steps toward healing. The Browns walked away from that fire forever changed, not as one unified family, but as individuals carrying both the scars of their past and the fragile hope of a new beginning. Coyote Pass, once a symbol of dreams and betrayal, now became a testament to survival, resilience, and the tentative promise of redemption.